Hi everyone, welcome to the module 1 for ETL tutorial. In this tutorial, we will be talking about very basics of what is data warehouse. Okay, and then we will be talking about why do we need a data warehouse. Okay, we'll also talk about the architectures about the data warehouse. Okay, and then we'll talk about the prerequisites for a testers in a data warehouse application. Okay, so what are the different prerequisites being a tester you need? What kind of different validations you will need to do in a data warehousing stuff? Okay, so this chapter will introduce you to a concept of a data warehouse, the architecture, the prerequisite skills you need, and the rest of the chapters will be dealing and dwelling more on those needs which is required from a data warehouse tester, okay, or a data warehouse quality analyst. So let's get quickly started. So what is a data warehouse? Okay, so let me take a very simple example of a data warehouse before I go into in my slides and all. So the very first thing I wanted to tell you about, say for example, you are dealing with you know any of the retail store, right? It can be say for example Reliance, okay, or it can be DMart or anything, right? So these are a couple of stores which what they do, they basically are retail stores and they sell a lot of retail stuff, right? And they have this they have the buildings and the locations, okay, and the shops available across multiple locations, right? So even they are available, say for example they are available in Hyderabad, they might be available in Bangalore and Pune and Chennai, right? So all the metro stations, they are available, right? So now a typical case of we'll take this example of this retail mart, okay, and then we'll keep on dwelling into more of the technical details and the testers details in the next chapter, okay. So I have this DMart and I sell lot of products, right? So what DMart or Reliance will do, they will sell lot of products. So when they sell a product, the product would be sold, okay, and there would be something a sales manager, right? And there would be a list of product, okay, and there would be something from the location of the product of from which location this has been the sale has been done, okay. And what is the other thing would be a total amount of sale, okay, amount of sales. And okay, so these are the three four key metrics that would be available, okay. And finally, once you do a billing in any of these stores available at any of this location, what you will get, you'll get a receipt or something like this, which would be a point of sales receipt, okay. And that receipt will contain all the information. It will contain the list of information. It will also tell you the quantity of what you have purchased and the total cost, okay. And then it will also tell you sometime if you have saved and some money. Some information would be on the location, so you'll get something on the top that this is the location in so and so location. You also get some information on the date. There would be some information over here on the date, on what date the purchase has been made, okay. And the amount, total amount of the sales would be somewhere here, and the sales manager name who has done this sales, okay, who was available at point of sales would be available here, right? So this is a typical details what you get in a retail store, right? So now if you see, considering an example of demand, that look, you have 10 plus stores available in Hyderabad, okay, and you have, say for example, 50 plus stores in Bangalore and so on and so forth, right? And 200 plus stores in Chennai, and around say in Pune it's like 100 plus store. Okay, so you have so much number of stores. Okay, and you are getting from each of the stores, maybe in a day you are getting around 500 customers. Okay, or on an average I'm calculating as a 500 customers, right? So on a single store, so if you take this, it will from this location, it will be 500 into 10, right? So that is the amount of this type of receipt that will be getting generated. And just for the Hyderabad, it would be 5,000. Okay, 5,000 receipt. Okay. So now what happens, right? So say for example, I am the owner of a DMart, okay, or I am the manager of a DMart. I wanted to see the total amount of sale that has happened across the location. When I say across the location, means I am saying across my geography first, okay. I wanted to see, understand in India, okay. I wanted to see the total sales, and within India, I wanted to further divide it into Hyderabad, right? And I would like to divide it into Bangalore, okay, and the other locations, okay. And then I wanted to see the breakup of here, okay. And that is the total sales which I'm talking about, right? So how easy or feasible for us to do this, right? We cannot really have a copy of this receipt which a customer gets and start accumulating it at the end of the day and to or end of a month and give the information about the total sales in India and then based on the certain geography, right? So what happens, right? So this is one of the scenario people would like to see the data. The another scenario would be based on the product. Okay, say for example, he has bought 100 plus product. Okay, and your products are in, say for example, you have divided your product in different buckets. Okay, like I'll say washing powder. Okay, somebody might have taken Tide, somebody might have taken Airtel, Nirma, and so on and so forth, right? So these are some powders which we use in India. Okay, similarly there are some products like health products, right? So like Amway and all, where people will buy. So what exactly it happened is I wanted to see the sale based on my washing powder. Okay, and then I wanted to see the distribution across the different brands what I have. So right now if I'm showing you three brands, okay, so I wanted to see the total across the brands plus the individual brand, but it should be across the location. I don't want only for Hyderabad. I would like to see this all data across India. Okay, and I might also want to see across the location. Okay, just to understand how my sales is going on in each of this region. Say for example, I sold the washing powder in an amount of $1 million. Okay, right. Now I wanted to really have a breakup. Okay, if I consider only three products I have, okay, is all the three products going in the same is fetching the same revenue or not? Okay, and what exactly, which product is selling more, which product is selling less? Okay, and based on that I can do my inventory management system. So based on this data I can do certain inventory management system where I can stock up. If say for example my revenue is more from a Nirma, I would basically try to store this Nirma product into my warehouse, okay, or into an inventory management system where I can quickly refurbish wherever the requirement is more. Okay, now if I understand this data and then I see that I'll take a different color. Okay, say for example Nirma is making a major sales. Okay, but I wanted to understand, is it across the locations the same, or maybe for example it is doing more sales in Hyderabad and Chennai. Okay, but in Pune and Bangalore there is hardly any sale. Okay, so basically the sale of Nirma is very less in this region. Then I would like to understand why exactly. Okay, what is the real cause? Okay, for less sales in Bangalore and Pune, why I'm having a more sales over here. Okay, so this type of information I need to do, and to make a certain decision making, certain data analysis I wanted to do, because I have a data, I need to analyze the data and come up with certain decisions. Okay, what exactly would be my marketing strategy in Bangalore and Pune if that is the case? Okay, or why exactly the product is not been sold? Okay, so this type of questions will be asked, and this is why we need data to be consolidated, okay, across multiple locations. And to consolidate very huge amount of data, if you see the amount of data which is generating is very huge, which we cannot put it into a transactional system. Okay, the reason why we cannot put it in a transactional system, because if you put the data into a transaction system, it will become, and if you keep on accumulating into months, years, and multiple years, what will happen? Your the system, the OLTP system or online transaction system. Okay, hopefully you know this, the terminology like OLTP and OLAP. Okay, it will become, right? So OLTP system is something which is a real-time usage. Okay, so like a transaction system, and you really would not like to store multiple year data. So you push all the data into your OLTP system or OLAP system, and that is where the data warehousing comes into the picture. So we have to move the data, all the data which is from a different location and different geographies. If for some reason we have a multiple geographies, you'd like to push the data, okay, into your OLAP system. And that is where the concept of data warehousing comes into the picture. Okay, so data literally moves, right, from a OLTP system to a OLAP system. I might have a different OLTP system based on different locations, okay, or based on different subject oriented, okay, uh, and then I have to pull all the data into my aggregate location, okay, and that is something called a data warehouse. Okay, so we'll come into more of a data warehouse. Okay, what is a data warehouse? But to make you understand, so this is the kind of problem statement what we are talking about. Okay, so let's quickly jump into the next slide. Okay. So what is a data warehouse? Okay, as I mentioned, data warehouse is nothing, okay, but data warehouse is a typical database which consolidate data across based on multiple subject areas. Okay, so in a loose terms, okay, or when you want to define in a layman terms, data warehouse is nothing but a database, right? It is just a database, right? But to define it in a more sophisticated terms, so data warehouse is a subject oriented, okay, integrated, time variant, non-volatile collection of data. So that is how the data warehouse is defined. So let's quickly jump into each of this highlighted terminology. What is a subject oriented? Okay, so very first thing, what is a subject oriented? As I mentioned, you might have a different applications. Okay, so let's take an example. Okay, in a bank. Okay, in a bank, you have a application for loans. Okay, you have a different application or different website for insurance, and similarly you have a different application for a equity plan, right? So if you take an example of any bank like ICICI or any bank, right? So ICICI Prudential Life Insurance, that is their insurance website. Similarly, there for equity plan they have a different website, and for the loans and all they have a different website. Okay, and if you see these different OLTP systems, okay, these are hosted on a different servers. Okay, but what is the case? Okay, why we are talking about the integration and all? Say for example, I am a customer, okay, and since I am a customer, I have multiple needs. I might be present over in equity plans. I might have bought a equity plan for myself, so I have an entry into my equity plans OLTP system. Similarly, I have an insurance too, right? The same customer is having an insurance, and the same customer can have a loans also, right? So if you observe now, the same customer is available in all these three. Okay, now if I have to analyze my data based on the customer, okay, how should I go about doing that? Okay, so because this is something called a customer financial informations, which is located across multiple websites. So what they do, so first they define a subject area like shares and savings, okay, and then try to pull all this data, consolidated customer financial information, and then they put it into a database, and that is called a data warehouse. Okay, so here the subject is a customer, and then it's a financial customer information, right? So based on this subject oriented, we are designing the data warehouse. right? So hope you understood this. The second thing is integrated, right? As I mentioned, the integration is basically when I was talking about a single customer, and then we were talking about shares and savings plans and all what he has. The integration is more about a customer information, right? So customer has an address, okay? That address will be available over here, okay? But when he has taken a loan, okay, it might be present here, okay, with a different address, right? Right. The same customer might be present in an insurance with a different address, right? So if I have to take it in a different, so since the address is different, what I will see, I'll say this is a different address, okay? The same customer is having, maybe I'll take a different color, okay? And the same customer is having a different address into the insurance bucket, and same customer is having a different address into the loans bucket, right? So the same customer is having a different information and different addresses. So there has to be certain integration to understand that the customer is having it's the same customer, right? So that is where the integration comes into the picture, right? So customer is having a savings account, is having a current account and loans account, and those all has to be present, it has to be integrated into a data warehouse. Okay. The third is the time variant. Sorry. Time variant, as I mentioned, I wanted to see the information about a customer on a periodic basis, right? So say for example, if I have to understand the customer history, credit history, right? So I really would not like to take a history uh, on a daily basis, right? I would basically like to see on a certain time factors, right? So maybe I would like to see a history on a January. Okay, if I have to consider a year of 2016 or 2015, I would see whether the history is good or bad based on the data collected at each of this interval. Okay, I have a different interval if you see this, and based on this time I can have his data collected and understand the history of a customer. Okay, what might happen is that in a January he might not have any loans. Okay, in February he might not have any loans, or maybe in a March he might have started taking a loan. Okay, and he might defaulter in another January. Okay, maybe it's a January 1988 98. Okay, and then he started getting default after March 97. Then in January if you take a data, that would be the credit history would be poor, right? So that is a time variant, because based on the time the data will change, because data is accumulated, aggregated into data warehouse, and you would really like to see the data based on the time. Okay. The final thing is non-volatile. Why we are saying as non-volatile, we'll quickly tell you. It is not typically like a OLTP system where you would like to purge the data. When I say purge means delete, right? So you would not like to delete a data. The reason being is this: if you delete a data, okay, what will happen if say for example you have a customer and he is having a loan, okay, right? So you have a So say for example you are a customer and you are having certain loans, and once the loan is done you would not like to delete that data, okay, or basically if it is a OLTP system you would not like to hold on to that customer, because this customer loan is done, he is no more an active customer, you can still delete the data, because you really would not like to increase the volume of a data, okay, because the performance of the system will go down. Okay, so what typically happens in a OLTP system is not supposed to happen into a warehouse. Okay, so warehouse is more in terms of where you accumulate a data, right? So normally what will happen if you have a data available into a warehouse, okay, there can be a insert, okay, there can be a multiple insert based on a new product a customer has bought, okay, there can be update if the customer has changed the address and all, so it has to be changed over here. They really would not like to be a delete operation like a operational system. Operational system, whenever there is an insert and update, that's fine, okay, but when it will not have a delete as it is in the operational system. Operational system, when the delete is there, the warehouse will not get impacted, okay, and it will basically would try to read the data from the OLTP system and push the data into my warehouse, right? So this is my warehouse and this is my the OLTP system on the left hand side, if you see this. Okay. So data is not volatile. We really don't delete the data into the warehouse. Okay. So this is the concept of data warehouse. Okay. One more thing I wanted to show you before we go into the architectural detail. Okay. So changing data, right? So changing data is very important, because if you are coming, if you understand how the data is basically loaded into warehouse. Okay. So this is what typically happens, right? So whenever the data is available into your, so this is my operational data store on the left hand side. Okay. So there will be a first time load. Okay. The first time load would be a full load into warehouse. This is my warehouse. Okay. So what happens when you try to move or when you try to have a integration of a data across multiple systems? So you would like to first move all the data from here to your warehouse, that is a first time load. And then typically whenever there is an update or an insert, you would like to refresh your data warehouse with the additional data, and that is where the refresh comes into the picture. And then again, if there are multiple updates and inserts after a month or 2 months, you would again try to refresh the data. So if you see this, there is a multiple refresh happens, and your data warehouse will keep on data storage into the warehouse keep on increasing with each delta. You really would not like to do the full load. So in a concept of a ETL, okay, this is called first time load, is called also called as a full load. Okay, sorry about this, is called a full load. Okay, whereas a partial or a refresh is called a incremental load. Okay. So you would be typically doing all this testing where it's a full load and the incremental load into a data warehouse. Okay, fine. So let's go ahead and see what's next I need to cover. Okay, so we covered what is data warehouse. Okay, so basically talking about the different sources, we will quickly cover the sources. The source system is something, as I mentioned, right? The OLTP systems, what I was talking about, they can, my insurance, okay, so say for example, I have an insurance, okay, and I have a shares application, okay. So insurance application can use, this is one application, and shares can be another application, and then loans can be another application, like, right? And all this can use a different database. Okay, so this can use, okay, my insurance can use a SQL server. Okay, my shares can use an Oracle server. Okay, my loans can use a MySQL server. Okay, so any server they can use for storing the database, storing the data. Right, so these are the different data which is databases which are available, right? So now when we were talking about all these databases, okay, and we were talking about consolidating this data into a warehouse, okay, so we'll quickly have to think how and what needs to be done to integrate the data into a warehouse. Okay, right? So typically you would need to like a connector to each of this. Okay, so data warehouse, your data warehouse should have a connector for a SQL server so that it could talk to SQL server, get the data. It would talk to Oracle, so you'll have need to have an Oracle connector, and similarly you should have a MySQL connector. So it's a MySQL. Okay, so okay, it's a MySQL. Okay, it's a MySQL connector, right? So you need your data warehouse really need to have this connector so that it could talk to each of the servers, okay, and each of these database servers to 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 get the data, right? So and that is what is very important in a data warehouse. Okay. Second thing it might happen is like, say for example, you in a SQL server you have your date and or you have your region information, okay, location information. Like if you are from United States, right? So you have stored this customer address as USA, whereas in Oracle system you have stored it as United States, right? And in MySQL you have just done as a US, right? but all of them is ideally the same, right? So there has to be a mechanism where you can integrate this information and say that US and United States and US is all same, right? So this is the another concept of data warehouse which we'll talk about, where you denote everything as as a single entity. Okay. The another thing would be as a data cleaning task. Okay, so you can do this as part of your data cleaning activity, right? The other thing can happen is, say for example, you have certain null values into insurance or the loans, okay, and that is coming from your source. Okay, say for example, it's coming as a null. Okay, now how do you want to interpret the null? Okay, how do you want to interpret the null into the data warehouse, right? So you want to interpret the null as 0, or you want to discard the entire record, right? That is also one of the activity that comes as a part of data cleaning, right? So before we push the data into data warehouse, there are certain things which we are talking about, right? If you see this understanding this data, cleaning the task and all, so this all, and the loading the data from different sources, this is typically done through a mechanism which is called ETL. Okay, so whatever I'm talking about now, it comes as a part of ETL. ETL is nothing but extract. I'm extracting a data, I'm doing some transformation, as I mentioned, a couple of transformation like null, and then understanding US, United States and US is one, and then finally loading my data into the warehouse. Okay, so this is a typical activity that will happen into a warehouse, and you have to do a validation at this layer. Okay. Features of data warehouse, let's ignore this. So is this typical architecture? I wanted to show it to you, which I have shown you here. Let me quickly take a capture of the screen. Okay, as I mentioned, there can be a different systems. Okay, it can be operational system or a ERP, CRM, or it can even be a flat file. Okay, so these are the different sources from where I have a data available. Okay, it can be an Excel file. So I have a layer which is called ETL layer, extract, transform, and load, and that will load my data into my warehouse. Okay, so data warehousing is basically taking the data, transforming the data, and finally loading the data into the warehouse. Okay, we'll not talk about this at this point of time. Okay, the analysis and reporting and all, but once you have a data available here, you would typically like to do something about the data, and that is where this layers will come into the picture. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, so extraction, as I mentioned, data brought up from external sources, transformation is some transformation, and the loading is the loading. Okay. Okay. Okay, so there are different tools. Okay, you can basically to help you understand, you really cannot do this activity manually, right? So you would really need to either do to so say for example you want to connect to database. Okay, what approaches you can have? You can write your own code. Okay, I can write my Java code. Okay, or in any language, and I can say connect database. Okay, open connection and connect to database, right? So that is what you do, right? And then finally you'll, once you connect the data, you can fire a query, select a start from, get the data, do some cleaning up activity, and then pushing the data, right? So this is more like you can code your ETL process, right? That is what I wanted to show or talk about it, right? You can write your own code. You can write in Java, you can write in Python, or you can write in any language. Okay. The second thing is company has already developed certain tools. There are many companies which are working in this area of ETL transform and load. There are which I'll quickly show you a couple of examples. Okay, there are so many examples and so many vendors which are working on the ETL tools. Okay, predominantly couple of few of them I'll try to talk about. Okay, which are famous also. Okay. So if you see this, the key or the main ones are the SSIS, that is from Microsoft. We have a Talent, which is an open source. Then we have something called IBM, okay, from IBM, okay, and we have Oracle one, okay, and then we have Pentaho. Can I see? Okay, Pentaho data integration, those are the free open source. Okay, so Pentaho and Talent are the open source, where the SQL Server, the Oracle, the IBM. Okay, those are costly, and those are from the vendors, and those comes with the licensing thing. Okay, there are many more ETL tools we have made, which we have made a note of it, which you can read over it. But those are not Oracle data integration is predominantly more used. Okay, so this one is also majorly used. Cognos data manager, and the reporting we have not covered, but the reporting Cognos is very famous. Okay, right. Okay, so what is business intelligence? As I was talking about the data warehousing, right? So we really didn't go into business intelligence, and I said very briefly that when I was after the data is loaded, okay, into my warehouse, the next process would be more to, because this is the data which has been cleaned, as I mentioned in my data cleaning task, and then it has been loaded. Now what to do with the data, right? So you basically you would like to analyze those data and build a certain intelligence out of the data, right? So that is the concept of the business intelligence, right? And once you see this, okay, you would like to move the data from your warehouse, okay, and where do you want to put? You can put it into another smaller databases, okay, or you can put it into a cube. Cube is again, uh, we will talk about this concept of a cube, okay, which gives you a pre-aggregated data. Okay, we will talk about it, and there are different solutions in the cube space, some from Microsoft. Okay, so Microsoft solution is called SSAS, right? And similarly, there are different vendors from Oracle and all, which have own solutions in the cube space. Okay, and then you might put the data from data warehouse into smaller databases, which are called data marts. Okay, and based on certain subject areas, you would like to move the data, okay, in the different data marts. Okay, say for example, I would just like to have a data mart for my equity information. I would like to have a different data mart for my loan information, right? So these are the two different data marts which I can have. And then on top of that, you can have a reporting structure. Okay, you can directly generate a report from either from the data mart or from the cubes. Okay, so reporting, as I said, reporting would be something, if you go back to my example, I would like to report my sales, okay, based on geography. So my sales would be based on US and India geography. Okay, and then I would also like to do a breakup also, right? So if it is in India, what is the really breakup, okay, across different so I say a DMart will have a Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, and Pune, right? So different, I wanted to do a breakup and see that, right? This all you can do with a report, and that is when you drill down onto the report, when you want to see granular level information, okay, that is where you go and drill down. And there are different reports. If you can see, you can generate different reports. I can, based on the geography, then I can base sales on my, I can have another report, say sales, okay, and I can say products. So based on different products, I can have my sales. Okay, how much washing powder has been sold, how many cleaning items has been sold, and so on. How many clothing items have been sold, and so on and so forth. Right. So that is how I can do my analysis. Okay. Okay. So we'll leave this slide. So there are too many slides. Testing the warehouse. Okay. So very important, guys. Now we are jumping into the testing process. I would really try to show you a certain testing. Uh, Basically, these are the testing entry points, and there are some tools, okay, which we are not going to cover as part of this, but there is something which I'm going to talk about, the testing strategies, or how do you define what all are the test entry points in a typical architecture of a ETL, and where does the tester fits in. Okay, so this is my source data, as I mentioned. Okay, and source data, if you see this, okay, in this diagram, the data is first moved into the staging area. Okay, why are we moving into a staging area? I'll tell you about that. Okay, so you can directly pull the data from the source, and this is my warehouse, so I can do like this. Okay, but what will happen, okay, what basically will happen, okay, let me just do that one thing.